Okay, so let's get into the story of a tech giant that operates on a scale that is just mind-boggling. And yet, for a huge chunk of the world, it's a complete mystery. Take a look at this number. 597 million. What is that? Well, as of March 2023, that's how many people were actively using a single instant messaging service every month. That's way more than the entire population of North America. The app? It's called Tencent QQ.
And that really brings us to the big question here, doesn't it? How can something so massive be practically invisible to so many of us? To figure that out, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning and see how what started as a simple clone grew into this cultural and economic beast.
So we're starting with the origin story, and it begins with a very, very familiar idea from the early days of the internet. You see something that works, and you copy it.
You can see right here just how fast things moved. It launches in '99 as a pretty blatant copy of an Israeli messenger called ICQ. They even called it OICQ. After AOL, who owned ICQ at the time, threatened a lawsuit, they did a quick pivot and renamed it QQ. But here's the crucial part. By 2001, it stopped just being a clone. It started adding all these new features that its inspiration didn't have. And that's when it really started to build its own identity.
And this is exactly why it absolutely exploded with young users in China. Think about it. While Western messengers were still kind of basic and text-focused, QQ was just more fun. It was more personal. You could totally change how it looked with different skins. You could send these crazy animated emoticons, and you could build a little digital you with an avatar. It was just way more engaging.
But here's the thing. Tencent figured out really fast that chat was just the doorway. The real goal, the big picture, was to build an entire digital universe for their users to live in, a place you'd log into and never have to leave.
So, first up was Qzone, which they launched back in 2005. The best way to think about it is, imagine if your chat app had its own MySpace, built right into it. That's what this was. A personal spot where you could write a blog, share photos, deck out your page, all of it tied directly to your QQ identity. Suddenly, the chat app was a full-blown social network.
And then they created their own economy with something called the QQ coin. This was a virtual currency, and they pegged it one-to-one with the Chinese yuan. At first, you'd use it to buy a new shirt for your avatar, or a cool background for your Qzone page. But it got so popular, so widespread, that actual online stores started accepting it for real stuff, totally blurring the line between the virtual world and the real one.
And their strategy for making money off all this? It was just brilliant. Instead of having one big, expensive subscription, they broke everything down into these cheap little diamond memberships. You want a cooler-looking avatar? That's the red diamond. Need more space for your blog? Get the yellow diamond. Want special perks in QQ games? That'll be the blue diamond. Each one was a tiny impulse buy level purchase that, altogether, added up to a mountain of cash.
But of course, when you have that kind of scale, you also have an immense amount of power. And that power led to some major conflicts and some really serious questions about user privacy and control.
This all came to a head in 2010 in this massive public feud. An antivirus company called Qzone 360 came out and accused QQ of secretly scanning people's computers and uploading their private data. Tencent's response was, well, it was extreme. They called the antivirus malware, and then they blocked anyone with that software installed from logging into QQ. They literally forced millions of people to choose your antivirus software or your entire social life. The whole thing got so chaotic, the Chinese government actually had to step in and tell them both to knock it off.
And this whole situation kind of bleeds into the unavoidable issue of state surveillance. For years, watchdog groups like Reporters Without Borders have pointed the finger at QQ, saying it complies with government monitoring. They allege that the platform is built in a way that allows authorities to scan conversations for sensitive keywords and to track who is talking to whom.
So, when you put it all together, how should we think about QQ's impact today? It's really a complicated legacy, right? It's a story of amazing innovation, but it's also a story of some very significant compromises.
The Electronic Frontier Foundation's Secure Messaging Scorecard really lays out one side of that legacy pretty clearly. QQ scored a measly 2 out of 7 points. And yeah, your messages are encrypted while they're flying through the internet. But look at what's missing. There's no end-to-end encryption, which is huge. That means the company itself can read your chats. The code isn't open source, so no one can independently check it for backdoors. It's just missing all the stuff we now consider standard for a truly private messaging app.
But then you have the other side of the legacy. It's incredible innovation. That idea of a super app, the all-in-one digital world that combines chat, social media, gaming, and payments, That's a model that QQ pioneered at a massive scale. It built the blueprint. Its own successor, WeChat, would later come along and perfect it, but QQ was the one that proved it could work.
And so that's the final thought it leaves us with. QQ showed us a vision of a certain kind of digital future, one of incredible convenience, where everything you need is inside one single walled garden. But it really makes you ask the question, is that convenience worth the trade-off? Is it worth the risks to our privacy, to fair competition, and maybe to the very idea of a free and open internet?